All right, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I hope you had a nice little coffee break, that you had some snacks and some coffee. Please feel free to take it with you maybe and have a seat. We will be continuing with our Velvet Innovation Conference. My name is Nikita Poljakov, and I'm glad to be hosting this panel. Today we will going to talk about competing globally. What are the opportunities and risks for Europe? Because as we all know, Europe kind of stands at the crossroads, facing mounting pressure from global competitors such as the United States or China, yet also hiding immense potential for innovation and renewal of this competitiveness. So the question is not whether Europe can compete, but how it can adapt and lead in a changing global landscape. I will be talking about these and some other topics in the next couple of minutes with my distinguished guests. And before we start, I would like to encourage you to ask questions through Eventi application. I see the questions already here. I will try to address them during our panel discussion. So let's start, ladies and gentlemen. Let me introduce our first guest, who is Michal Kořan. He's founder and president of the Global Arena Research Institute. Hello, Michal. Hi. Please. Our next speaker is Jan Meyer, who is to be, yes. Hi, Jan. Jan used to work for several years as an MD for Heureka Group in Czech Republic and Slovakia, and today he is consulting for JIC. Welcome. And our last panelist is online, unfortunately, and it is Alexandr Hobza, who is an expert in the cabinet of Executive Vice President Stéphane Séjourné, which is a prosperity and industrial strategy. I hope, Alexander, we can see you and hear you. Welcome.
Good afternoon.
Yes, perfect. Guys, the microphones are here for you. Feel free to use them. And gentlemen, let's start broadly. I will try to maybe come up with the same question for each of you to start off the discussion. And my first question is, what is the main challenge? I know that it's quite a difficult topic, but what is the main challenge? What are the main challenges to Europe's competitiveness today, and how to address that or change that? Let's start with Michal.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much for your invitation. It's an impressive venue, impressive event. All right, the challenges. I think that the key challenge at this point is that Europe is bound to push and pull into too many directions, and some of those directions are mutually incompatible. I will give you an example. One of the push is support strong leading companies and strong innovative centers. However, our data, for example, show that for the past 15 years, this push works, but it also dramatically increases not dramatically, it does increase the regional differences, which is one of the biggest causes of the current social and political polarization. So basically, by innovating, we're losing the social cohesiveness in Europe, and that's a crucial problem. That's one of those. Another problem is that by pushing for green transition, in my opinion, at least in the best case scenario for the next 10 years, at least, by pushing for decarbonization, we're pulling ourselves into deeper dependency on Chinese and US technologies. So, and this, I think, this conundrum is very difficult to solve. And I really do not envy the position of Mr. Hobza, who's trying to put these pieces together, because it is so difficult. So let me just say that the problem is that the European Union is bound by its nature to push and pull into too many directions, and they are sometimes very contradictory.
Thank you. Can I ask you, Alexander? So how does these, so to say, paradoxes go together? And do you agree with Michal on this?
Well, in Good afternoon. Thank you very much for the invitation to this conference. And I'm terribly sorry I couldn't make it in person. So at least like this virtually. Well, I do agree that we have a number of challenges which are related to competitiveness. I mean, I tend to think of this in line with the Draghi report, in which I was lucky to participate as well, and in which outlined the main challenges to our competitiveness as the innovation gap. So exactly as was mentioned, we are not innovating enough. We do not have enough companies which would go in the direction of disruptive innovations. And then our economy is locked in a rather static industrial structure. At the same time, we are trying to decarbonize our industry, which is creating some challenges. On the one hand, this could indeed be dependencies on China, but also it requires huge investments. In the order of some 800 billion, as the Draghi report put forth, but still needs to be tackled. And then finally, indeed, the economic security, which if you read news, obviously you see it very regularly these days. The weaponization of European dependencies on China, in particular, in terms of raw materials. So how to bring this together? We do believe that it is possible. The Commission has put forward the so-called competitiveness compass with a number of measures which are meant to address our innovation challenges, and which also should solve some of the trade-offs which were mentioned. Yeah. The innovation regional link. I mean, this is something which obviously is there, but for that, for example, the Commission has this number of different tools. Yeah. On the one hand, we support innovation. On the other hand, one can also support regional cohesion.
We'll talk about those tools in a second, and I want to come back to Draghi's report and Plan B for Europe as well. But let also ask Jan Honza, because you actually are a stakeholder for this on the company side, on the business side. You work for Heureka, which is medium-sized enterprise, so to say, in the European standards. So, what is your experience concerning this?
Yeah. Can you hear me? Does it work?
I don't think so. Yeah, it does?
Yeah, now it works. Okay. My opinion is that Europe and European companies can innovate, but we can't scale. And, scale is what counts. For example, Microsoft Windows wasn't the best operating system, right? But it was the scale that got Microsoft to where Microsoft is now, right? And that's the issue in Europe. When it comes to the reasons for that issue, I see it mainly because of the fragmentation. It's fragmentation of the financial markets, basically, the fragmentation of legislations, and the last one, but not least one, fragmentation of mindset. And when it comes to the first one, just give you the example so you understand the scale difference, right? We have like super cool startup and like some AI, whatever stuff. Everyone is doing AI or whatever stuff. This one is doing AI, whatever stuff really well. And the guys raised like 1 million euros. Sounds good, right? But their competitors living in Silicon Valley raised at the same time, for the same technical solution, raised $80 million. It's not twice as much. It's 80 times the much as the guys here raised, right? It's completely like another field and another level. So this is the first thing that I want to highlight. And when it comes to regulations, I don't think that we need to discuss that, right? But when it comes to the mindset thing, and think about that, our ancestors here in Europe have been fighting with each other for thousands of years, right? Unfortunately, it didn't go away in 50 years right now, right? Unfortunately. And, just think about it. When someone is selling you something, for example, in B2B, would you rather choose Czech solution, the same solution as you, or Polish solution, right? Is it like, and always when you are trying to expand from Czech to Hungary, is it like, yeah, Czech, yeah, but isn't there some Hungarian company like my company? And it's always like that, and it's another this like this mindset fragmentation it's very hard to erase, but we can't forget about it.
It's very hard to solve this pickle, basically, because further integration would be the answer. We will definitely talk about that. What can we do about it? But guys, because you both worked on a competitiveness review, so to say, one is Draghi's, the second is yours, Plan B for Europe. And there is a question from the audience as well. What is the most pressuring, so to say, problem in Draghi's report and most urgent one? So my question is, okay, it's going to be a broader one. Is Draghi's report relevant for all the topics that we want to cover? Because sometimes it seems that some problems are just insolvable. And the second question is, what do you think from the Draghi report is the most crucial part for our discussion? Alexander, can I start with you, please?
Yes, sure. Since I mentioned, I was involved in the work on the Draghi report, and I was engaged in the part on innovation. And also in view of the topic of today's conference, I would say that innovation is key for Europe's future. And the other speakers, they have already mentioned some of the elements which are problematic for Europe, for our companies, startups, and scale-ups in particular. It's to some extent regulation. You know, sometimes when I talk to colleagues about innovation policies, I tend to say that completing single market would be the by far most effective innovation policy. Precisely giving European companies the opportunity to operate in the market of some 440 million consumers. I mean, that would be huge. This is a market which is much bigger than that in the US. And currently we're not actually exploiting this full scale. Of course, on top of that come all the issues related to finance. So completing the savings and investment union, but also access to talent. In companies, they need talented, well-educated people. Again, we have a number of universities which do provide good education. What we're missing is the top talent, but also the inflow of or the attraction of talent from abroad. So these are all elements that we should be working on.
Thank you, Michal. There are some critics that say that Draghi's report is quite difficult to grasp because the solutions are so difficult to achieve. What is your take on this, and how does Plan B for Europe fit into that, please?
Okay, that's better. Thank you so much. Well, first of all, I would like to send a long-distance apology to Mr. Hobza because we were quite critical in our Plan B, and I think that critique was undeserved because it's so difficult to put something on paper and it's so easy to criticize, right? So, and I guess that in the Plan B there was a little bit of undeserved frustration because when I got the first sort of hints of what the Draghi report could be and the critique from Mario Draghi, I was really excited. When then I read maybe 5 times both of the big documents related to it, I found, and again, this is my deepest apology, it's just a reflection, that it's sort of an impenetrable circle of solutions that are mutually dependent. And what I mean by it is that let's say let's take the regional cohesion. So we will use some money for regional cohesion, but for the money to be implemented and not lost on golf courses or whatever, you need good state administration, which is lacking. Well, it's tackled too. For good administration, we need better education. For better education, we need money, and we need, again, good implementation. For getting rid of Chinese dependencies, we need more innovation. But before we get there, we are and it just goes over and over again, and there is no way you can actually enter that. And that's where the Plan B comes in, because what we have found out is that one specific area in the European Union has leveled off or is actually worsening, and that is efficiency, and especially energy efficiency in energy-intensive industrial production. For the past 15 years, it just doesn't go down. And so we did some calculations, don't take my word for it, but because it was not a Commission report, we paid it for, we just wanted to do some good. I don't know if we did, but that's what we wanted to do. But from our initial calculations, we found out that for about 1/10 of the hypothetical 750 billion euros that were mentioned in the report, over the period of the next 5 years, we could gain some 15 to 25% of improved energy efficiency in energy-intensive industries. But the problem is that energy-intensive industries in Europe have been told for the past 15 years that they are no more needed here. But now with the geoeconomics, with China and crazy Trump, we see that we actually need to produce steel and mining and stuff like that. And there is this, I would say, 15 years gap of underinvestment into the hardcore efficiency. And if I may say the last on this point is that I love the motto of this conference, to go beyond limits. But I think there are two kinds of limits. One is the limit to sort of the blue sky innovation, which is really needed, and I'm sure we'll get to it. But then there is another daring thing, and it is to squeeze every drop of efficiency as you can. And I'm sure there are a couple of F1 fans here. That's where you can see it very well. Yeah. Every single drop. And it's very daring because it takes so much time and so much patience.
Mm-hmm. From the business point of view, Jan, what would be solutions, structural solutions, detailed solutions that could help actually with this issue?
Yeah, just a quick question for the audience. Who did actually read the Draghi's report? Can you raise your hand? No idea what is that. Okay, so who has at least some idea what is Draghi's report about? Okay, so it's like 30% of an audience. So just the reality check what the, like, I would say, enlightened European citizens, which are sitting here, know about the Draghi's report and the pressing issues of Europe, right? So maybe the first thing is, the first thing is really putting out the knowledge, ringing the bell and saying like, hey, there is something called Draghi's report, whatever we call it, and we have to like act on it. That might be the like first. It's not solution. I would call it first step, right? Okay. And the awareness, maybe, yeah. And when it comes to the like my position from the perspective of business, I think that there is this like two words that resonated with the European Commission and Parliament like a few months ago, and it's technological sovereignty, right? And I think that that's definitely something that we might want to or aim to reach. There is, for example, the initiative Eurostec, maybe you've heard about that, which basically aggregates the substitutes for the like American big tech companies, right? Because now when you are in the European Commission, just giving it as an example, if you are a member of European Commission, you are probably calling each other on Teams, right? Which is like Microsoft technology, right? If you are working within like any like government organization in Europe, you are probably calling each other and sending emails through Gmail or Teams or whatever. Even though that there are like local substitutes for this, which just couldn't scale, right? So just preferring local substitutes where they are available, and they are available in most of the cases, I believe it's easy and first step that we can do.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Alexander, you said that the European Commission is working on competitiveness compass. There are some initiatives basically for European companies to upgrade or subsidize their energy efficiency. So which, according to you, can be the most efficient in the shortest time? Helicopter drop, money helicopter drop, or you think there could be something more specific and more added value approach?
No, I think we need to be much more targeted and specific than helicopter drops. And just two quick comments. I mean, efficiency, I think, is very important, and that's also why the Commission comes with a number of proposals to upgrade the technologies used by the energy intensive industries and so on and so forth. But this is typically incremental innovation. What we need to move Europe further is disruptive innovation. And then this is where we are talking about the situation of startups and scale-ups in Europe. And this is also something where we are trying to help, trying to see what the problems companies face. And then indeed, I can confirm what has already been said. While we have more and more startups, and if one does a bit of counting, it seems that in recent years we produce more or less the same number of startups as US a year. The problem is that they do not scale. Right, so they either go bust or they somehow hover at certain size, but they have huge problems to scale, which is again related to what was mentioned for regulation on one hand, but also very importantly access to financing. And so here I'm coming to what one can do is we can stimulate finances or improve access to companies through a number of tools. I mean, obviously, we would ideally want to have our capital markets as developed as those in the US, because it's the private capital which really does matter, and then public sector can never put together as much resources as is needed. But given the fact that the capital market union has not been completed yet, and the cross-border flows of capital in Europe are relatively weak, there is some role for the public sector. So this is what we already do through a number of programs to de-risk private investments, including in innovative companies. And this is something which should be even much more strengthened in the next multi-annual financial framework. So the next budget of the EU, which will kick in 2028. And then will last for another 7 years.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Michal, what would be Plan B's for Europe solution to this problem, immediate ones? Because as we talked, Draghi's report names some problems that are crucial to solve, but are very hard to do so. So what are more approachable solutions then, please?
Well, thank you for the question. Well, if I knew that, I might not be sitting here. I might be in Bali, you know. But anyway, I'll also put a question into the audience. Do you know any European company over the past 12 months, a giant company that surpassed an American company in some way, in some important way? I'm sorry? Well, SAP is, okay, SAP is sort of right there, even though it's pretty much dependent on technologies and things coming from elsewhere. But it was not SAP, it was Airbus. It was Airbus after 50 years surpassed Boeing in the production of single-aisle aircraft. And that's sort of my reaction to the disruptive technologies, because the way Airbus did it was a sort of disruptive technology, basically taking the driving of the airplane away from the pilot, which makes sense. I'm a pilot myself, so I know how much it makes sense. That's one thing. But for me, more importantly, it's the corporate structure of Airbus, because Boeing just screwed up like royally from the 1990s. And so my takeaway from that is that disruptive technologies, yes, but what we're doing is not actually disruptive technologies. We're still sort of mimicking what is happening in China or in the US, and we're trying to catch up. And that's not disruptive. That's not the blue sky research. We're still trying to figure out how to build a freaking microprocessor factory here in Europe, right? Or batteries. But what Airbus did was really clever. It pushed for efficiency. It kept sane corporate structure, responsible corporate structure. It didn't subject itself to the corporate craziness that Boeing did. And third, it really came up with a very new concept of driving the airplane. And these three things together, I think, work. And again, last point on this. So sort of keep the European responsibility. That's our only way forward, I think. So it doesn't mean not innovate, obviously, but it's a risky bet that in short span of time we will really get a big unicorn which will sort of lift up Europe. That's a very risky bet in this global environment. And basically build the infrastructure. So, for example, for Airbus, and especially in the Czech Republic, in Central Europe, there is a huge infrastructure for aviation industry. It's a big culture of that. So it's just one example where the smaller companies can try to go in that direction and help out in the supply chain-ridden world.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. We got a few minutes left, so let me just address some of the questions that you asked. Thank you for them. I try to cluster them so we make it more efficient. There are many questions on European competitiveness against United States and China, and I'll pose this question. So, are we actually able to challenge US and China and win this innovation race, or we have already lost? In what way can we do it? What is our, so to say, competitive advantage, so to say? And what can happen if we don't? I think that would be also one of the interesting Draghi Report questions. What happens if we don't make it? Anyone who wants to answer any part of this three-part question. So, Alexander, do you want to start off?
Yeah. Yes. I can chip in. Well, what happens? I mean, I don't see the audience, but from the reactions, I understand that not too many have read or know the Draghi report. So I assume not too many of you watched the press conference when the report was launched, where Professor Draghi was asked more or less the same question: what happens if we do not implement what you're proposing to implement? And he thought for a fraction of a second and said, slow agony. So essentially, if Europe is not really up to the task and does not change the way how we operate, improves our competitiveness, then the current trends, which are not terribly favorable, will persist. And then after a number of years, we will really find that we are too far behind US and China and in many other countries to meaningfully compete. Now, can we do something with this? I obviously believe we can. But it should not be really put forth as this kind of outright direct competition with US and China, who is better overall. I mean, obviously they have a huge advantage in specific fields, but on the other hand, Europe has a number of advantages in other fields. So we should really build on our advantages. Also be aware of the weaknesses that we have, which very often these days are in the most dynamic digital sectors, and try to address them in one way or another. And for example, with AI, I don't think the question is who will eventually kind of dominate or win the AI race as a whole, but who will be able to take the best use of the tools that AI is offering. Now, Europe has a number of strong sectors, typically in the more traditional ones, which can actually, and in the future probably will have to rely on AI solutions. So this is possibly one direction in which we can go, and where Europe can importantly boost our competitiveness. So be more targeted, strategic, and look where we can boost the position of Europe. And we do not necessarily have to compare ourselves with the US and then China on every single element.
Okay, Jan, you want to follow?
Well, I don't know if the guys would agree with me, but I believe that we need less European Union and more European Federation. I think that we need to really be and act as the one huge entity containing like hundreds of millions, honestly, very rich people in general. And that's something that would give us, I would say, chance or even hope to, compete with those two huge countries or federations or whatever they call themselves, because otherwise we are just fragmented and everyone is pulling the different strings, some to the different way, and it's unfortunately not working that effectively, right?
Thank you. Michal, we have 1 minute left, please. Your last words. Yeah.
I think we already are in slow agony, and the slow agony can end in several ways. And here my geekiness as being working on international relations. So it's either some sort of return of first half of 20th century politics on steroids with social media. That's one thing. Some sort of revolution and some sort of massive war. So that's where the slow agony ends. And that's why I think it is really urgent, and we need to find solutions that are not 5, 10, 15 years away. We need to find solutions that will give society at large a story about Europe that they can identify with. And I don't think we're there, and we're getting farther and farther away from that.
Mm-hmm. Gentlemen, thank you very much. Thank you for your time and for your insight on this topic. Thanks.
Thank you.